Hello everyone, welcome once again to Veterans Talk. Today we have Jerry Huggins here with us from Dillon. He's the County Veteran Service Officer in Dillon County, and we're going to be talking a little bit about some of the programs that the VA has available, try to clear them up for some people. So we don't want to try to get into that as much as we can because we know we got a lot to cover. Jerry, one of the first things that we were going to talk about is let's go right off from the bat and let's go ahead and start talking about what compensation is and who's entitled to compensation and what you have to do if you're entitled to compensation.
Well, compensation is designed to pay a veteran that gets hurt while they're on active duty. If they get hurt, the VA has a rating scale, which they give you a rating percentage of anywhere from 0 to 100%. It's based on the disability that was incurred while you were on active duty. But also it covers not only physical, but it covers mental disabilities. It also covers maybe you had a pre-existing condition before you went in service, and it was not bad enough to keep you out. The doctors processed you through. But later on in service, you aggravated that condition to the point where you can no longer do your job. Then you would be discharged with a medical disability, and you file a claim to the VA. Then they would rate you for disability and pay you compensation based on the rating they give you.
Right. And so basically a bottom line would be, a basic thing would be, for example, someone that had hypertension. When they were in the service, they went to their local corpsman or medic or whoever it was, and the corpsman says, well, you got high blood pressure. And this is after they're already in. And they, when they go to get out, later on, they still are affected by that high blood pressure. They can go to the VA, file a form for compensation for high blood pressure, and they will be compensated for that high blood pressure, correct?
Once the VA will more than likely call them in for an examination by their own doctors, and based on that examination result, they'll award them anywhere from 0 to 100%.
Right, and as me and you both know, obviously, we're not talking about no short time thing here. The VA takes a while to do about anything that we're talking about. We're talking about it may take a year or more to get done.
Right now it is.
Right now, and the VA's working on that, trying to fix that.
There's about a 400,000 backlog still right now.
Right, yeah. And some of the things that also involved in that is some of the things that you could have gotten while you were in the service. And a major one is Vietnam veterans with the Agent Orange. There's a lot of things that applies with Vietnam veterans. So if you're a Vietnam veteran and you were exposed to Agent Orange, the best thing to do is just go ahead and get your Agent Orange screening done.
Right.
Yeah.
When I first started years ago, the VA only associated 3 diseases with Agent Orange. Currently there's 15.
Right.
So, you know, the field has expanded. If you have any doubts, anybody has any doubts about it, yes, they need to go ahead and start with the Agent Orange registry examination and go from there and see a doctor, and if they find something, then file a claim.
That's right. And like we said, once again, this is compensation. That's when something happens to you while you're in the service, and it's still happening to you now, so you will be compensated. Cut and dry, no ifs, ands, and buts about it. That's the way it works. Well, as long as you can prove it.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I was going to say. Documentation is the most important thing.
Right, documentation.
There's got to be something in your records from active duty where you were treated for this problem, where they can see it initiated in service, or pre-existing and was aggravated. There's got to be documentation.
Right, and like we said, it can range anywhere from a loss of a limb to sinus problems.
Yes, loss of a limb, not only loss of the limb, but loss of use of the limb.
That's right.
Or reproductive organ or whatever.
Yes, and any of that you'll be compensated for it, cut and dry, as long as we can
have
the paperwork and the documentation proving that. And that's where you'll get with one of your county veteran service officers or one of your other services in the county and file that paperwork and get that done. Now, let's talk about Veteran B.
Okay.
Veteran A is the compensation guy. Veteran B is the big one, pension.
All right.
All right. Now, what is pension and what is it about?
Pension is kind of like a supplement to veterans that make below a certain level income. The VA has a maximum annual rate of income that you cannot exceed. If you're below that, you can file a claim for pension. And it's based on, first of all, you have to have at least 90 days of active duty service. You have to have served 90 days, you have to have served 90 days during the wartime period, but only 1 day during the wartime period. You have to have an other than dishonorable discharge, And then your income has to be below that maximum level
Right.
that VA projects.
And believe me, it's pretty way down there.
It is way down.
It's, as we speak, it's somewhere around the $700 range, I think, right? Close in that range.
Well, a single veteran by himself right now is $1,054. A widow is like $707.
707 for the widow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now, some of the things, and my feeling is one of the main reason pension was put out there is for medical reasons. And that's for like maybe later in life or even today if something happens to you. And explain me, how does that go about?
All right. Primarily, yes. Like right now, somebody that's disabled and can't work, all right, they're not service connected. So it's called non-service connected pension. They can't work, so their income is of course low, below that limit. So what the VA does is they say, let's just use $1,000. Chief, your maximum allowable rate is $1,000. You're making $700. All right, the VA is going to, if it's approved, the VA will pay you the difference from your $700 up to that $1,000 or $300 a month. All right, if you have to go like in a nursing home, and it is not a Medicaid nursing home, then we can also apply for a program called aid and attendance, which is designed for somebody that needs a higher level of skilled care. And that will pay you approximately $400 to $450 a month more to help compensate if you have to pay someone to come in to take care of you, or if you're in a nursing home. And here again, keeping in mind it's based on income for you and your spouse if you're married. All income in your house is counted. But you can use your Medicare Part B premiums, if you have them, as a deduction, AARP supplements, Medicare Part D or E or whatever parts there is for drug plans, and the room charges for the nursing home or assisted living facility.
Or assisted living facility.
And 9 times out of 10, those expenses alone will wipe out the income as far as a deduction.
Yeah.
So you would continue to get your money, your $1,000 from the VA for that pension part, but then you'd get the additional money for the aid and attendance.
Right. So basically what happens with Veteran B, he's out there and he goes to the doctor and the doctor says, okay, sir, you're going to have assistance. You're not able to take your medicine on your own, or you're not able to bathe, or you're not able to do this. So you need some type of assistance, and I'm going to recommend you go to this home. And then or even at home.
Correct.
Even at home. And so now once the doctor does that letter saying that you need that assistance, now that becomes a medical cost. And that medical cost can be taken from your income. So now, once again, we get back to where we were talking about the amount of money that a veteran can make, and the VA will try to keep them at that income up to so much paying.
Correct.
They won't give you $1 trillion to keep that up, but they'll pay so much. And that's basically how that works, correct?
Basically, yes.
Yeah. Now, what are some of the other benefits? Let's say on the compensation. Let's get back to Veteran A.
Okay.
Veteran A, the guy, he's got service connected from Agent Orange. And he gets one of the cancers that are affiliated with Agent Orange and dies. What is left for the widow?
If the veteran is receiving compensation for a service-connected disability, in this case an Agent Orange disease, one of those 15, he dies from it. And, you know, it is well proven or documented he died from that disease.
It has to be on the death certificate.
It helps 99% of the time. It's more quickly approved if it's on there.
Right.
Because doctors hate to go back and change death certificates. But anyway, then the widow comes in to our office and files a claim for something called Dependency and Indemnity Compensation, which is DIC. Because his death was service-connected from his disability, currently a single widow would receive something like $1,215 a month, tax-free money. Plus, she would also be eligible for PX and commissary use, CHAMP VA health insurance, which is at no cost to her, educational benefits for her, and if there's any small children. And if there's any small children, she gets an additional amount for them too. Right. So it's pretty good.
And once again, Veteran A is compensation, so no income
Service
is
connected.
counted anywhere. It don't matter if she was a millionaire, she's going to get this.
That's right.
Okay. Now, let's go back to Veteran B.
Okay.
Veteran B, veteran's in the nursing home and he dies, and it's not service connected, don't have anything to do with service connection, but he was under a pension and he dies while he's in the nursing home, is the widow entitled to anything?
Well, she would have to come, first of all, she could file for burial benefits, and the VA would pay her $300 towards burial benefits and $300 toward purchase of a plot. But aside from that, if the VA owed the veteran any money at the time, she would file for accrued benefits, and she would receive any back money he was due. But then she would have to reestablish her own individual identity and file a claim for what's called improved death pension. And here again, it goes back to what we were talking about a while ago. The VA says, as a widow, your income can be here. Your income is here. We'll pay you this difference to bring it up here. But on the first year, she can use the cost of the burial as a deduction, which would generally wipe out her income for that year. And so for at least 1 year, she would receive that full check.
Right.
Of whatever the amount is at that time.
And once again, this is one of them things that you've got to file, and
Yes.
the VA takes forever. And most of these programs, most of your nursing homes already know about them, so they know what paperwork or what offices
Right.
to get in touch with and what to do and stuff like
Plus, on the non-service connected death, there's a 2-year time limit.
that. Right.
Not on the service connected.
Now, the 2-year time limit, what do you?
From the date of the death, she has 2 years to file that
2 years
claim.
to file that claim, right. Now, but at the same time, now, isn't she also a veteran's wife? Let's say now, let's get to the wife, or the male if the veteran was a female.
Right.
But let's get to the spouse that's left after the veteran's passed away.
Okay.
Let's go back to veteran A. That spouse needs to go to a nursing home on the compensation. What is she entitled to?
It's called special monthly compensation.
Right.
It's almost the very same program as aid and attendance, but because it's connected to service-connected disability, it's called special monthly compensation. She has to meet the requirements of the aid and attendance program.
Right.
And then they will pay her that supplemental money to help pay for her medical bills.
Offset the cost.
Yeah.
And the basic requirement for aid and attendance is basically a doctor saying, getting a letter saying that that's what you have to have. You've got to have someone to take care of you.
Yeah, and of course, there's always a government form to be filled out. The doctor
Correct.
fills out.
That's right, the
It's
doctor.
going to detail how she needs such higher skill level of care from nursing people. She can't bathe, feed herself, that kind of stuff.
Right.
And they do have one step lower than that. That is aid and attendance. They have another one called housebound, which pays less money, but you don't have to have such higher requirements to get that one, as far as your health goes.
And and in that particular one, your spouse can actually, or if they're still living, or your daughter or someone like that can claim that, correct?
Well, the
as long as
spouse-
they're the one taking care of you.
The spouse can.
Yeah.
Currently, the only way that the child would get anything is if they were under 18 and helpless since
Yeah.
birth.
Yeah, I know. I'm talking about the spouse. The widow would get the money, but it would be paid because she had someone in the home taking care of her.
Oh,
correct?
yeah.
Yeah, and as long as they had, because the doctor once again
Right.
said that they have to have some type of care, and I think what they're trying to do is keep as many people at home care as they can, because that's what a lot of people desire.
Well, not only that, but I think they finally figured out it's much more cost effective to do it that way. Plus, from the mental aspect of it, it helps the patient.
Right.
Being in familiar surroundings with somebody they know taking care of them.
Now, and one of the reasons we're doing this video today is so we can get this out to our nursing homes and to our hospice companies and stuff like that, so they can put this out and know what's going on. And most probably the most important thing of all, even if you're going into a nursing home or if you're in hospice care or whatever it is, the first thing you need to do is make sure that they have your DD-214.
Correct.
That is the most important thing of all, because none of this happens without a DD-214.
Yeah, you don't exist without it.
You don't exist without a DD-214. Now, some of the other questions that we get asked a lot through in this subjects here is like burial. The spouses, from what I understand, from what I was told, if you were on active duty before 1980, you can have 1 day in the service and you can be buried in the National Cemetery, active service. After 1980, you had to have 2 years of active service to be buried at the National Cemetery. And the only reason I know that is we just had a problem with that here recently. The other thing is the spouses can be buried in the National Cemetery with the husband. You know, and here in Florence, and I'm pretty sure they do it the same way anywhere else, they both use the same coffin, or not coffin, but site. They both use the same site, one on top of the other. And there are cases where sometimes if you've got a third spouse, they could be put there with you too if there's room.
Yeah,
that's what I was told.
That was a relative change.
Yeah.
Recently, you know, the ex-wife can be, or husband can be put in there too.
Right. That's right. And
that might be interesting.
That would be very interesting. Is there anything else that you can think of that maybe we need to put out for the nursing home type care?
The biggest thing is, I would encourage them, if they're going to go and do that, for them to either first or have the nursing home contact us.
Right.
Because in this program, you know, things change frequently. Okay. And we're not always the first to know out here in the field.
Yes, right.
So, especially the monetary part of it, and regulations and governing certain things. So, I would appreciate it, you know, if they would call us first and say, you know, I've got somebody coming in and here's their situation, and here's their income. We can help them with all that paperwork and stuff that they've got to do.
Right.
Because it's getting more and more all the time.
That's right. And like you said, it's constantly changing. And another thing is if you ever look like you're getting into a situation like this, or possibly in the near future, you need to start checking on it right away, because like we said, this is not a very quick process with the VA.
Yeah.
Any of this as far as the monetary money or whatever. But most of the nursing homes know that. Yep. And they will work with the veterans on knowing that, hey, it may take a little while for them to get that money or whatever. And so they work with them.
Right.
Yeah. And like I said, once again, we're talking about two different systems here. We're talking about the compensation guy. It's cut and dry. It don't matter. Something happened to you while you was in the service, it's still happening to you now, they're going to pay you for it, regardless if you're a millionaire or not.
That's right. Pension
is all about the amount of money you make.
Health and money.
Yeah, health and money, after you take your health cost off. And number one, DD 214. You should first thing you should do is make sure the nursing home or significant other or whoever is involved has got a copy of your DD 214, because that's also the thing that you're going to need for the funeral homes and things like that later.
All right. I'd like to make just two quick notes.
Yeah.
On the DD 14 in particular, I get a lot of calls about that. If you don't have a DD 214, we can order one for you from St. Louis. Mm-hmm. You know, they had a big fire out there in 1973 and thousands of records got destroyed. Well, they've got a new process now where they're actually taking ashes and reconstructing records. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have one, you know, come by and let us order you one. But the biggest reason is, as you mentioned earlier, nothing is possible without that DD 214. But in particular, I've had a lot of people in recent times want to know ahead of time about a military funeral. Mm-hmm. And the first thing I ask them is, do you have a DD 214?
That's correct.
If the family wants a military funeral, we have to have that DD 214. Mm-hmm. Because we can keep them on file and do all that stuff for them ahead of time.
Yeah, and I don't know if they do it the same in every county or whatever, but for an example here in Florence, the funeral home, they use that DD 214, that's what they get the flag with. They take that DD 214 to the post office, and the post office gives them a flag. I don't know if they do it that way in Dillon or not. But that's
I do that in Dillon.
You hand out the flags yourself in Dillon?
Yeah.
But here in Florence, the post office does it, and that's where they take the DD 214 and get one. Well, with that today, we'd like to end today, and I'd like to thank you very much for coming on the show with me. And is there anything else you can think of that maybe we need to get out?
No, the biggest thing is, I guess, would be people that's needing health care. Mm-hmm. The DD 214 is also needed for that.
Right.
Come talk to us.
Mm-hmm.
You may be eligible, you may not.
That's right.
It's worth a shot.
The bottom line is, if you're a veteran with an honorable discharge, you're entitled to something. If you meet the requirements on whatever that something is. You know, and a lot of times, if you're in a nursing home, especially due to the fact, especially if it's where the doctor required you to go there because you need assistance, you, like we said before, veteran B is all about the amount of money that he makes, and the one thing that you can take off of that money is the cost of medical expenses.
Right.
And that, if the doctor says you've got to have that assistance, that's a medical expense.
Right. One other thing on the 214 discharge in particular, and a lot of people have been mistaken about. It doesn't have to be an honorable discharge. It has to be other than a dishonorable discharge. So a general under honorable conditions gets you into healthcare system, gets you pension. So a lot of people think that because it's they don't have, it doesn't say just strictly honorable, they're not qualified. But they need to come by and check it out.
That's right. And you need, and if you have one of them kind of discharges, you need to come by right away, because there's a time limit on there. You're going to get them things changed if they have to be changed.
Yeah. Lord, yes.
Yeah.
Everything's time.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to thank Francis Marion once again for having this show today, and hopefully we can get this out so we can get some information to some people in the area about the different benefits that are available to them. And like I said, once again, my office number is 843-665-3045, and I have two great young ladies that work in there with me. They can answer, believe me, they've been doing this for 25 years apiece, and they can answer any questions. They know 10 times more than I ever thought about knowing. And Jerry, what's your number over in Dillon?
843-774-1427.
Okay. And between the two of us, you can get some answers, and if we can't find the answers, we'll definitely know who to send you to get the answer.
And we got a phone number.
That's right. And like I said, once again, thank Francis Marion for putting this together for us, and we'll see you again in the future. Thank you.